Rob Zombie is back in town on his Dragula, and there's fixing to be hell to pay 3 times over.
Boy, could you get more dramatic?
That's right, somehow the 3 awful excuses for human beings that belong to the Firefly family are still with us. Despite watching them being gunned down by not great officers of the law at the end of The Devil's Rejects. But resurrection is merely the first blockade on this highway to hell. See, during the making of the 3rd film from the Firefly trilogy, Zombie and crew would have to deal with replacing a major actor just 3 weeks before filming was to begin. They would have to create the movie using only a fraction of the budget that they had worked with on the previous 2 films, which both had a pretty tight budget to start with.
Groucho!
Oh, and for good measure, this thing wouldn't even be getting a standard theatrical release. It would instead release as a 3-night-only Fathom Theater event.
Christ, you're already dead. You just don't know it.
Nearly 15 years after what many consider to be Rob Zombie's magnum opus in The Devil's Rejects,
I am the devil, and I am here to do the devil's work.
He's dusting off the boots, cowboy hat, and hopefully the soap to take an insanely huge risk by bringing the Fireflies back to life for a 3rd time. With less than half the resources of the first 2 films, would Zombie be able to pull off the impossible? Or would 3 from Hell become a stain on one of his most beloved works? You know what they say, the show must go on. Even if the show involves shooting off copious amounts of fireworks inside an extremely flammable trailer park with ridiculous amounts of alcohol in your system.
That was it.
Okay, I might be the only person to ever say that, but here's what the happened to 3 from Hell.
There's no justice in this world. I am justice.
Rob Zombie insists that not only did he not plan on turning the Firefly family story into a trilogy, but that he had never even intended to make a sequel to House of a Thousand Corpses at all.
Hold on, man. Just hold on. I'm just a guy trying to survive from hustle to hustle, man.
Despite that, and the obvious demise of the Fireflies at the end of Rejects, there had always been some speculation that fans would get one more flick out of the bearded one. And ultimately he obliged. Because like fire, Rob Zombie does whatever Rob Zombie wants.
I am the eternal flame of salvation burning through your life.
The director mentioned that the characters never really left his mind or daily thoughts in general, which is probably a concerning mental state if we're being honest with each other, so he decided why not.
The boogeyman is real, and you found him.
Let's bring back the 3 amigos of hell and do it all over again. He brought the idea to Lionsgate, and they were happy to oblige. As we'll find out later, they didn't have to risk very much in the deal. Writing 3 from Hell, Zombie found himself inspired by true crime documentaries about Charles Manson. Let's be honest, wouldn't you be more surprised if Zombie spent his free time doing anything other than watching old Charles Manson videos? He explained that he had always been fascinated with the Manson family trial and the fact that they had their detractors. You know, murdering innocent people will do that for you. But they also had plenty of fans. He wanted to play around with that idea. So the first act of 3 from Hell would be the miraculous survival of the Firefly family, thanks to the town law enforcement apparently being worse shots than stormtroopers.
Here, dry those tears. I'm funnier than you think.
The story would then pivot to a true crime view of the current situations Baby, Spaulding, and Otis Driftwood find themselves in, incarcerated and on death row.
Peace and love.
The second act, he says, was much more noirish, incorporating some home invasion moments, before things go full-on spaghetti western in the final scenes. Zombie says that he very intentionally made the film in 3 separate acts that feel distinct from one another, with elements of each of the first 2 films peppered in.
You are as delusional as ever.
Though Zombie will be the first to tell you that it feels like everything goes wrong when he's making a film, he probably didn't envision 3 from Hell's biggest challenge being replacing the lovable and dependable Sid Haig just 3 weeks before filming. The original plan for the movie was obviously to follow the path of Baby, Otis, and Captain Spaulding, but shortly before they were set to reunite, Sid Haig called his longtime friend to inform him that he was in a rehabilitation facility recovering from a major surgery.
What's the matter, kid? Don't you like clowns?
When Zombie visited, he realized how serious the situation was. Haig's appearance was staggeringly different due to the weight loss that he had suffered from his health issues. There was no way Zombie could go on with the original film that he had envisioned. Luckily, the Rob Zombie bullpen is deep with folks who look believable murdering people for fun. He called up the ultra-talented and angry-faced Richard Brake.
Tony, that's him all right.
To play a new character that he had written into the script as Spaulding's stead, Otis's half-brother Foxy Coltrane. Brake had to rush from another set in Spain and fly to Los Angeles as soon as possible, but it saved the film. The actor fit in with the Firefly family like a pack of smokes next to a bottle of tequila, though there is no true Firefly family without Sid Haig, and Zombie knew that. Lionsgate allowed him to sneak Haig onto set for one day to shoot as much as he could with the late actor. As usual, Haig crushed his small moment in the film and left his mark on what would be his last film, before he sadly passed away in 2019. There was never a question, of course, of whether or not Sherry Moon Zombie would return as Baby, but Zombie did say that she had her reservations. Sherry had been skeptical because she was such a fan of how Rejects had ended. It wasn't until she read the script that she was sure bringing the Firefly family back from the dead was a good idea.
I have the answer to all of our problems.
Bill Moseley returned as Otis with no convincing necessary, stating that, in his blood, he felt like the Rejects had more to do.
This is my death factory, and you are the product.
Zombie brought back the underrated Jeff Daniel Phillips in all his Dave Grohl-like glory, as well as some other Zombie production staples, including Danny Trejo for a short scene, and Dee Wallace playing against type as the hateful Deputy Greta. When he first sent Wallace the script, she told him that she wasn't sure she could play such a mean character, but the actress, known typically for her sweet performance on screen, shook off the doubt and called Zombie back the very next day to agree to the role. When it came to the look of the film, Zombie again enlisted the help of cinematographer David Daniel, who he had just worked with on 31. Daniel did a fantastic job creating the aesthetic necessary while honoring the feel of The Devil's Rejects. The cinematographer had previously worked on the Scream TV series of all things, and interestingly enough was in the camera department on the horror classic American Psycho as well.
I have to kill a lot of people!
So he clearly had some experience. The script and cast were in place, but it was time to film. But would the cast chemistry still be there after all these years? According to Zombie and Moseley, they were both a little worried about it. But in the end, all it took was throwing on the costumes and a couple of moments before they picked up right where they had left off.
Yeah.
Right.
But they would have to do so on a razor-thin budget. Zombie had already felt as though The Devil's Rejects was a difficult movie to make on a mere $7 million budget, and this time he would be making 3 from Hell on less than half of that.
What are you waiting for?
Waiting for him to break.
With just $3 million. It took just under a month to shoot the scenes from 3 from Hell, using locations such as an abandoned women's prison in Los Angeles for one of their filthy locations. You know, the kind of places that just leave you wanting to go home and deep clean your oven.
Yeah, I took care of the situation all right.
For the sounds of 3 from Hell, Zombie again enlisted the help of Terry Reid, who had left such an imprint on The Devil's Rejects. He praised that Reid's voice sonically just sounds like the movie. He also incorporated the classic Iron Butterfly song, In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida, previously used in the wild and crazy ending of Michael Mann's Manhunter on this soundtrack. Composer Zeus, who Zombie had just worked with on 31, had his hands full as well, with Zombie asking him to basically create 3 different scores for one movie. Zombie requested a documentary-type sound for the first act, and a jarring switch to something like a Morricone-style Good, the Bad, and the Ugly replica in the final act. As is often the case for Zombie when getting his movies made, the release of 3 from Hell would not follow the status quo. Instead of editing beginning immediately, he had to delay his post-production duties until an upcoming tour with his band had been completed. Then, instead of a typical wide release, the film was released as a 3-night Fathom event. On night 1, it aired alongside a Rob Zombie introduction, and crowds were gifted a commemorative poster. Night 2 included a behind-the-scenes feature and a bumper sticker. Night 3 included a grab bag featuring Vienna sausages and a bootleg Kid Rock album.
My name is
No, just kidding, it was a double feature with The Devil's Rejects. You might expect Zombie to moan after the lack of a formal release, but he accepted it Scott Stapp style with arms wide open. He credited Fathom Events for being there for smaller, gnarlier films when the money just isn't there for a wide theatrical release, especially when they would have had to make around $70 million just to break even under a wide release model.
My mom told me that joke.
The limited event grossed just under $2 million of box office, prompting a one-night encore in October. While the box office fell short, the fans no doubt supplemented the returns when the film hit video on demand, and of course with the physical release later in October. Critically, Three from Hell took about as many bullets as its main characters did at the end of Rejects, or at least as many as we thought that they did. While it sits currently on Rotten Tomatoes with a 55% Rotten Critics score, his audience finds it a bit more appealing at a clip of 78% fresh. Detractors argue that the entire film is an exercise in watching unlikable characters make bad jokes as they torture other humans with no substance.
I suggest you get ready to burn, motherfucker.
Some fans even question whether it was ever the right idea to bring the trio back from the dead in the first place, and feel as though the project tainted its legacy. Those who praised the film chalked it up as another misunderstood Rob Zombie cult classic, and some simply appreciated the distinct filmmaking prowess that Zombie brings with him. While the critics certainly can't kill Rob Zombie's fans' bloodthirst for the franchise to continue, Rob Zombie certainly can, and all but has. The rockstar has maintained that Three from Hell is probably the end of the road for the franchise and the Fireflies. But then again, he said that before. For now, in Zombie's eyes, the Fireflies are finished, but at least some of the characters survived this time, and are probably out there eating some tutti f***ing fruity. Am I right? If you're actually comforted by that thought, you should probably have a long conversation with yourself, a friend, or a therapist. Though that's none of my business. And this is what the f*** happened to Three from Hell. We hope you have a great day, even if we're kind of judging you.
At this point, life seems hazardous to my health.
Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. JoBlo was created by movie fans for movie fans, and we appreciate your support.